What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So, to our fellow community members, I have been on a short vacation. In fact, I'm somewhat in the middle of it, but it's winding down right now, and I've been following very closely with a lot of what's been going on with Gotham Knights. And so, shout out to those of us here in the community, those on Twitter who've been making sure that I am well notified and up to date just by sharing a lot of different details that I miss from time to time. I think it's quite interesting to go ahead and take a good big look at what's going on with Gotham Knights here in the next few weeks. So for those of you who already know, one thing that we're expecting is the next character reveal trailer. And the suspicion right now is it's Batgirl. I was looking at some tweets and it seems like a lot of people are really excited to see what she's about. And I understand that Red Hood is probably going to be needing a little bit more of a treatment, especially after the Red Hood fiasco from the reveal that was done with Nightwing and Red Hood. Some people would like to see that character actually done in a better light in terms of combat. One thing about these action games is, as much as story or lore or whatever is going to be solid or needs to be solid, at the end of the day, combat is the major action aspect of these games. And them being action RPGs or action combat games or whatever, you really need the action of a video game like this to be quite solid. And so I think this is something a lot of people would love to see. But so far, so good. It appears that Gotham Knights and the team have some appearances coming up. One of them is a San Diego Comic-Con. This is something that a lot of us already do know, but I thought it was interesting just to go ahead and include it in this video, add it into the conversation, because we don't necessarily know how this is going to go. If you follow maybe the old Comic-Con type formats, it probably will be a thing where developers and some of the VAs or voice actors, whatever you want to call them, may be available to answer questions and talk about a few things with fans that are present in that particular event. So this is definitely something that I believe that we will be, in a sense, paying attention to. Probably, hopefully, we get to see some clips from it and we get to see some really interesting conversations regarding details that we may or may not know. It's going to be very interesting overall to kind of see a lot of things. And I'm sure from here, a lot of us will be able to extract what the developers intend to be in terms of the relationships between the players, the fans, and maybe the voice actors and the way they see the characters. I'm guessing a lot of this stuff is going to be unveiled as we go into that particular event. So that's just one thing. Another thing too is very soon Gamescom is going to be going on. And for those of you who don't know, Gamescom actually does, represent a huge platform for a lot of video games, and it happens in Europe. So we usually used to have the E3 event go on in the US, and Gamescom and some other showcases used to be the platforms that did represent a lot of what Europe had to offer in terms of showcasing video games and a few other things that could make their way into those particular platforms. And so that's what's going to be happening. And Gotham Knights developers have already expressed that they will be in that particular event. Now, this event is actually the biggest crux of my video, because one thing about events like these is that they have the propensity to unveil a few things that we have not necessarily gotten our hands on when it comes down to a video game. And that is getting some gameplay into the hands of third parties. So let me go ahead and explain in this particular conversation that we're having. Now, in events like Gamescom, sometimes developers will take a splice of their game and actually open the floor, or at least make sure that it's available for specific journalists or people who are in the gaming industry that do report on these kinds of issues or events, and they get to play a little bit of it and they get to maybe give some feedback. And in many cases, they're actually allowed, or at least there's an agreement that they're able to write about what it is that they've experienced. We've seen video games do things like these in other platforms. In fact, specifically, I remember from the documentary for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and how the game was made, they did have an event that they took a splice of the game to, and it was a closed door event for developers to be able to actually play the game. There's also been some other ones that have been a little bit kind of spooky, and I'm talking to you, Cyberpunk 2077, because for those of you who remember, there was E3 of, I think it was 2019 or so, or maybe it was 2020, I can't necessarily remember. No, it was 2019, it wasn't 2020, no way it was 2020, 2018, 2019, where the developer was playing this small splice of the game, and they had a lot of press people in there, and they came out going, "Oh, our minds were so blown, this is crazy," but not knowing that they had not necessarily optimized their game just yet. Now, yes, I'm not saying Cyberpunk is a bad game. I'm just saying that they faced the stress of not optimizing the game on PlayStation. They did not cancel last gen. Like, Gotham Knights developers have basically taken that step. And so, good or bad, I think it may work for them. So hopefully we don't have that kind of an event where the game is actually a solid game, but it doesn't necessarily come out in the best possible quality. But I'm certain that the devs have kind of sidestepped that problem with just moving everything to current gen. As disappointing as it may be for those who may or may not have the current gen right now consoles, I think you are probably in a better position however it is, because even if this game was available for you on the PlayStation 4, you would not want to play a broken, buggy version of it, right? And I have not met the person that would say, oh, I'll play a buggy version of Gotham Knights. There isn't that person. So eventually, when these consoles get available, when people can get their hands on them at some point, you will be in a position to actually play Gotham Knights in a much more polished state. That's just the bright side of the conversation. It's kind of disappointing, but it is still the bright side. But looking at that, I'm thinking that this Gamescom is really going to be where a lot of people are going to spend some time focusing on what these so-called maybe journalists or people who get the opportunity to play the game, what they're going to be saying regarding what they've gotten to experience. This is what I would love to see from that. I mean, I'm not going to Gamescom. I think it's in Germany. So we'll probably be having some press members make their way there, or maybe, game journalism websites, or channels that have journalists overseas. They can make their way into these events and they can see what's going on. And I'm hoping that Warner Brothers Games Montreal is able to actually do this so that we can start hearing a little bit more of what other people think about the game from their own perspective. This is what usually helps people to form their own ideas about a video game. More importantly, nonetheless, though, I've always advocated that a demo or a beta should be made available so that even the individual gamers, those of us who are actually paying for the game and also paying these gaming journalists, because we watch the videos that they make, we read the articles that they write, right? I mean, and they get advertising revenue from the attention that we give. I think we also need to get a splice of the game so that we can play the game also and make a decision for ourselves. So there are multiple layers to all of this stuff, and I feel like in other conversations we can continue talking about this, and I'll make a dedicated video again to this topic. Even if I've made multiple videos, I'm really interested in seeing how the developers go about the marketing and go about maybe potentially dropping a demo for this particular game. But so far, so good. Things seem to be panning out in the way that they've been planned, but there will still be some really fun things in terms of the superhero world that are going on before we get to Gotham Knights. We have Spider-Man coming out very soon. That's something I'm interested in looking at. And we also have God of War as well coming out afterwards, which is spelling a new dimension for PlayStation and the single player games, and some of their studios that are even making some of their PlayStation exclusives that might make their way to PC. So we'll keep an ear on the ground to these conversations. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching the video. I really do appreciate you guys for all of your support. Hopefully we'll talk very soon in another one. Peace out.